Yep, an old geezer. Sure am. Getting older by the day too. But tomorrow now is my 75th birthday. Hello. Wish me happy birthday. What's old Steve-O up to today? Well, I went to my friendly Lowe's store and got 2 buckets. 5-gallon buckets, food grade. Now I have one of these already in the shop. It doesn't have a gate on it yet. Went on Amazon and got 2 gates coming. They're plastic gates. You bore a hole in the bottom. This bucket here is the top bucket. This is for harvesting honey, guys. Yeah. There it is. Boom. Harvesting honey. Now, get you, these are carriage bolts. As you can see, they got a rounded head in there, right? And they just went across from each other, and you come up 6 inches off the floor. I put that in. That gives a little slop around there to get the bucket in and out easily. No problemo like that. I've done it, been doing this for years. The small amount of honey I'm fooling with, I've been doing it with a single one, but we're kicking everything up a notch. I get going 40 colonies or more. I may have half a dozen of this same setup here. No, I'm not extracting honey. I'm not extracting honey. Been there, done it. Did it for years. Built my own extractor. It was 4 boxes. It held each one of my boxes, shallow boxes, held 9 frames. I had 4 of them would go in. I cut the cappings. I had them on a drip drain tray. Then I'd take the frames, put them back in a box, and load it into the extractor. Now, that ain't really a really cool way to do it, but I was selling it to the packers, and the packers would heat that stuff up, just basically ruin the honey, and then they would filter it. And I built my own and ran it with believe it or not, with a little 1/2-inch drive motor. And the whole system, the way it worked, was a friction wheel. The center shaft on that thing was a Ford drive shaft with a spline on it. It has a spline on it. And I cut the spline and the shaft portion off, and I had to have some machine work done on that. The horizontal shaft, where everything came off, the whole reel assembly came off, was on that shaft. And it was a 3/4. All you need is a 3/4 cold roll shaft on the center, and I built everything off from that. I put collars, slide collars on, you know, the ones with the Allen nut. That I could slide down and adjust, and I built the entire reel. I laid it out on the floor. I laid it right out on the floor. I drew the whole circle of my tank. The tank would happen to be a diesel fuel tank. Diesel fuel tank, and I measured that up. I don't know, it was a good, seemed like it was a little bit larger. I'm thinking 36 inches, but I think it was bigger than that. Anyway, yeah. And I took and cut that tank down. It had flat bottom on it. And I actually rigged it up to where I clamped it and put a hydraulic jack in and actually pooched the bottom of that thing out a little bit, so everything, the whole floor and the bottom of that tank was sloping. Then I put a hole in the bottom. I welded in a flange so I could come off with, I think it was 1.5 inch piping. It came out from under the tank, and then I put a regular cast iron ball valve on it. And I had it high enough to where I could stick a 5-gallon bucket under that honey gate and transfer it. I didn't have any honey pumps, none. It would have made a big nice deal. But you know, you're talking honey pumps, you're talking a couple grand, right? Oh, no, 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 no. That ain't the way Steve-O rolls. Low out, little output, a lot of income, okay? That's the way I like to roll. Anyway, yeah, I put legs on it, 3-inch pipe legs. So the whole thing, the whole top of the tank was like right up to here. And I had a little step up because of the ball valve underneath. I had to get the height to get the 5-gallon bucket under, right? So a little step up, and then I just dropped my box in. 9 frames to the box. They were looking outward. And then I had a little wooden bar I put in. It was just 16 penny nails along that thing. I could put them in on the bottom bar and give it a half twist, and it locked those frames right like this. So it ran true as it spun. For the horizontal shaft that the motor was hooked to, and that was a little fan motor. It wasn't much. You're talking a lot of weight here. It's unbelievable what you can get to do here with this. The horizontal shaft was belt driven to a 1/2 horse motor. That's all you need. Belt driven, V-belt. I think I had it was direct drive there. I think I had a 2.5 inch on the horizontal shaft where the motor hooked, and a 2.5 inch V pulley on the motor. Very simple slide system to tighten the belt. The horizontal shaft came over, had 2 3/4 pillow blocks. I used a 4-inch channel along the top that it went down and bolted with just U-bolt on each side to hold the channel down to the top of the tank and centered in the tank. And so my shaft, 3/4 cold roll shaft, came up through. I could assemble all this. I had it to where you could take it all apart. And on that, I had to have another machine part done. It took about, I don't know, it was 1.5 inches or something, solid stock. And I had the machinist bore it so I could slide my 3/4 cold roll shaft in, the horizontal shaft at the top. So I had a pillow block over here and a pillow block back over here to hold that shaft this way, horizontal. I dreamed up all this stuff after looking at, believe it or not, a little snapper. There used to be what they call snapper riders. They're quite famous back in the day. Let me have a sit down here so we can have this discussion. The snapper rider mower back in the day had a similar situation. They had I did that out of, like, it seemed like it was about 1/4 inch or a little bit bigger, thicker plating. I took plating and I had him take this slug of steel. It was about 4 inches long that my 3/4 cold roll shaft would go into with 2 Allen sets on it. And then I had him cut me out. I had him chuck that weld on this 1/4 inch plating that was a good foot in diameter. And then I had him cut that to a nice round circle. Then I also, after he had it welded, I wanted it faced. So he had to cut it till it ran true along that face of that thing. Because, you know, once you're welding and this and that, so I cut it. It was just completely smooth on there. So when you fire this thing up, the vertical shaft on that, and this is where that Ford drive line came in with the splines. I had the machinist do the same thing. He bored the spline part of the drive shaft, the spline part on the bottom where a 3/4 shaft would go through. Again, 2 Allen sets. And then the female part of the spline went over top of that. Then I had him cut 2 discs. This is all stuff I dreamed up in my dreams. Then I had him cut 2, it was like a 1/2 inch. This is really beefy stuff. 2 of them. They were about 3 inches or so in diameter. that would slide on the exterior, on the OD of the female portion, okay? And then I had them weld it top and bottom and leave about that much gap in there. On the top of that 4-inch channel iron that came across that tank, I rigged up a lever, just a simple pivot, just a pivot, a bolt, 3/8 bolt, and I made a fork basically, something similar to your clutch forks on your coming off your transmission on a manual shift. And I had it 2 ears that would come inside of that slot that I had gapped, to where I could take that lever. It had lots of action because I put the pivot close to the reel, the vertical portion of that. So you could grab that thing. I had a bicycle handle on, a handlebar thingy, a plastic one on the end of that thing, so I could grab it and move it up and down. So, and then this horizontal shaft with this 12-inch faced off plate, right? That thing would come on up and hit that. I forgot to tell you, I did a 2 small disc, and they also came in there to where they could be sandwiched up leather in there. You see, that's what that little rider, those little snapper riders, they had the same scenario. They had a little steel hub with some leather. All it was leather sandwiched up in between the 2 plates. So I had that's bolts, 4 bolt, 1/4-inch bolts you could take out. If the leathers ever wore out, which they never did, I ran that thing for years, and it got right down close to or almost steel on steel, because I let the leather pooch out about that much from that round disc. And that's what this plate hit. But you can turn this machine on and have that leather disc where it hit the center of this 12-inch disc. Turn it on, just sit there and spin. It's not going anywhere. Now, when you start pulling the lever down, right, there's tension on this horizontal shaft too. There's tension pushing against those leathers. And what I did for a tensioner was went to my mechanic and got 4 valve springs. I don't know, they came out of 357 or something, a 350 motor. They were valve springs. I put 4 of them on that horizontal shaft. I put another collar over here. Then to preload it, I made 2 all-thread deals with a plate I could drop on and start screwing them in. Just ratchet it in and start compressing those valve springs, right? And once I got them compressed, I had 2 collars on that horizontal shaft. I'd lock both of those collars in. Then I could back off my spring compressor. Now that horizontal shaft is shoved up tight. That big 12-inch wheel, mind you, is shoved up tight against that leather that's on the vertical shaft. All right, now to change gears, all I had to do was take this big lever, which was up in this other groove up here, and start pulling it down. As soon as you start pulling it down, you're coming on the exterior, you're coming out of center, which is going to start turning this whole reel. Guys, you could start that thing slowly, let it get going, let those frames dump about halfway, pull down on a lever. I had it locked over here where I could adjust it too. And 10 minutes, if that, those frames are completely dry. That thing, when it started spinning, guys, you can put your head over that tub and it would blow your hair back, the wind coming out of that thing. And if you accidentally put your arm in there or something, this thing would rip your arm off. I'm not kidding you. It was crazy. And things always out of balance a little bit. As heavy as this monster was, it would start moving across the floor. So what I did, it took, I think it was 3/4 or 1 inch on both outside sides, hammer drill and a masonry bit, and I drove right through the slab And then I took an old broom handle I had, or hickory handle of some sort, whittled it down. I took a sledgehammer and I drove that hickory handle into that concrete. And then I pilot holed and I run an eyelet in there, cabled it up to the top of the tank, extractor on both sides, with one of them turnbuckles. I held that puppy right to the floor. It ain't going nowhere after I did that. No. But yeah, that I had that thing, and I also built it. It was so high, I actually cut the whole thing in half, and then got some thinner banding material, like 1/8 inch by 1, and I left a little gap in there so I get a cutting torch in there. So I welded 2 bands all the way around in the center of that tank. And then, no, I did, well, wait a minute, what did I do? Yeah. I spot welded around, and I left that much gap in there where I get a cutting torch in there and blow that puppy in half. So then, once I did that, I could take the 2 parts out. I marked the tank so I knew it, because you got to go back in the same way. It's only going to go in one spot where, you know, where it mates. And I cut it, and I could flip it and grind the whole thing so it's nice and clean and flush. Then I put the tank back on, but I needed a lip to hold that thing together. So then I came in with another band on the inside, clamped it in place, and then I went and spot welded it at the top so I could, and then I bolted it through at 4 points, just basically like this tank right here, 4 points on across from one another. And I could take and pull this thing apart, and then I could roll it through, because I had to roll it through a 36-inch door opening. So that worked out pretty cool. And when I sold out once, actually sold out twice, because I got so disgusted with honey prices. But honey prices these days are stable. There's getting less and less, I think, of small beekeepers in general. They're just dying out, you know. They're eating too many carbs. I think they're eating too much of their own honey is what it is, yeah. Just eat this honey, guys, as it was a medicine. Yeah, you want to eat honey like it's a medicine. Don't be consuming it, pouring it all over hot cakes and bacon, or biscuits and all that craziness, and jacking your blood sugar up. Next thing you know, you're down here at the doctor getting metformin. Next thing you know, they're chopping your body parts off, because all these people are lying to you about proper human diet, okay? All I see on television today, guys, is them pushing, Big Pharma pushing their drugs to cook you up. Don't tell the people, hey, stop eating that stuff. No. God did not make honey for us to sit and slobber down on biscuits, okay, guys, and hot cakes. No. Throw all of that, hot cakes and biscuits, in the dumpster. It's not fit for human consumption, okay? But the doctors don't tell you that. Steve-O, I think, is the only one on planet Earth that's telling you this. Don't know why. Well, I do know why. It's just because they're making big money. I'm not making no big money on nothing, okay? I'm just a little small-time beekeeper. I'm trying to show you guys a little small things you can do to make a few bucks on the side, and hopefully keep you strong enough to keep doing this type of work, because we are fixing to go straight into the hell heat zone, I call it, hell heat zone. And it is brutal. But if you like your job, which I do, this is what I do, we keep doing it until they put us in the pine box, okay? That's how it rolls. Okay, so that's a little something. I got off a little bit on honey extractors. You probably are confused at what I was saying, but anyway, I landed in another couple more locations. I'm keeping those cards working, guys. Keep the cards working. If anybody I see that I think is out there, a wilderness type person, or knows people in the wilderness or something, I introduce myself and hand them a card and tell them my intentions. hey, pays to advertise, right? So anyway, so I'm just making up this drain bucket thing here. The bottom bucket here is just a food grade bucket. There'll be a plastic honey gate in. I think Miss Daisy found me 2 of them on Amazon. They're on like $11 a piece. I mean $11 for 2. Very cheap. This stainless steel. I got stainless steel. I wouldn't use regular steel. They're gonna rust. You don't want nothing. You want this whole honey making operation clean as a whistle. When you're clean these buckets, just don't be dumping honey people are going to eat inside of questionable stuff. Wash it out. Make sure you have food grade materials you're working with. On the top of this bucket, I've got the little wood burner set up right there. Yeah, I'll show you how I'm doing this in a second. I got a ton of holes to burn in this thing, by the way. Yeah. And like I said, these bolts here are 6 inches up off this floor. And see, that drops in easily. You got a little gap here. It's no big deal. But when I'm doing this, I'm going to take a big contractor's trash bag, something like that. It's going to be up on this thing. And I could be doing this scrape and drain right out here in this barn. Well, there's bull ants in this barn. There's other types of ants. There's Argentine ants. There's all kind of stuff. I don't want them in this bucket. Now, while you're at the paint store buying these buckets to do your scrape and drain, get you a couple 5-gallon paint strainer bags. That paint strainer bag's going in this one, and you pull it up to it's about here, the bottom of it, and when you drop this in, it'll kind of pinch and hold it in place. So you got your bag in there, and this is up, like I said, 6 inches up, so you got lots of room for honey to come in here. On top of this thing, go to Lowe's or wherever, or you can get those cookie cooling sheets, or just a 1/2-inch square mesh deal. You could cut it to size if you like, but have some overlap, say a 1/2 inch or so overlap, and you can melt some holes and do a zip tie in 4 places if you want to, or 2 temporarily. But yeah, like I said, I'm going to put this inside a bag and bring it up to about here when I start this. At the end, this is going to drain for 24 hours. It's going to be sitting there dripping. Put your 1/2-inch square rack on top here, and then you set your frame up here, and you can cut it out. If you got them bamboo frames, you can cut it out. If you want cut comb, cut the comb then, put it up, put it in jars, top it out with honey, or just get those plastic clamshell 4-inch square things, put honeycomb in that. You can go that way. I'm probably going to basically do liquid honey, but you can just let it sit and come on air while you got your scraping spatula. And I use these that work great. These work great. You just sharpen these a little bit on your grinder and get a sharp edge. They're bamboo. And you can scrape it right down on top of this rack. Then you can take your tool and just push it into this bucket here. And then it's going to drain. Now I've had this thing sitting here heating up, and so I started here in the center and try to keep a wind going so you're not breathing this plastic. Melted plastic is probably not a good thing. You can see the smoke coming off, and just keep going all the way around, then come back in on the inside in between these. And so forth, and keep going, come all the way down. You're making a complete Deal here. Take a little while, no big deal. It won't even take me a half an hour to punch all them holes. So yeah, that's what's happening. Getting more locations, get out, beat the bushes, find these locations. Things get going good with this operation the next couple of years. I may get rid of the 99 and buy me a small truck. I'd like to get a four-wheel drive because I plan on going into some areas that hardwood swamps and stuff, and a four-wheel drive. And I'm thinking about working the it'll be in bear country. I'll have to tune up some electric fence stuff, but I know some good areas. Just getting permission to get in is a thing, and I could run it pretty nice with a four-wheel drive truck, probably a cab and a half. I'll go with gas burner, I won't go diesel. And I put a steel flatbed on the back of that thing, and then I've got my trailer out here. I can drag a trailer behind it, and I can show you guys how to build. I've built 2 of them in the past, and they work really slick, really slick. 12-volt beehive lifter on a boom. It's a boom deal. I've done them. I've done a couple of them. There's some improvements I want to do for a hydraulic leveling device, or the boom will come up and down if you're in a tilt or whatever. But yeah, it's a little set of hand forks. And basically what it is you've seen barn door tracks. That barn door track, it gets welded to a piece of 2-inch box material. That's the boom. That's part of the boom. And it'll have 2 eyelets on end with a bolt coming through back to a pin system at the main column where the boom can be tilting and stuff, and it'll have a jack under it to where I could quickly jack it and level it out. I had this set up on my truck, and I won't do it that way. I will do it with the trailer. So where I'm hauling bees, I'll have that trailer behind me, and that boom situation will be on the tongue, back toward the trailer. It'll be on the tongue and reinforced with, well reinforced, where this thing won't come crashing down and kill you, okay? But it'll be long enough. It's going to be about a 10-foot boom, but it's really light. It's really light, this thing. It's all mounted. It's all mounted on a barn door track, and you got 3 pulleys, 2 pulleys up that attach to the slider pulleys on the barn door track, and then it comes down to a single pulley. So the cable, be probably eighth or a little bigger cable, comes down, comes through the first pulley, down to the bottom pulley, up, over, and ties in dead man's at the end of the boom on an eyelet. Well, where it comes down, it hooks to another pulley that attaches to my forks. And the 2 forks I put cleats on all these beehives. This is going to be the beauty too, guys, of these beefy beehives. All of my beefy beehives, this is going to be slick. You see all these beekeepers running around, they got nets. When these guys are running bees from Florida to California and all over, they got bee nets. Okay, they leave the entrances open. And my hives are all screen bottoms. All I got to do is take my swivel plug that's on there and turn it. Maybe add another screw to zap it down. The bees are sealed up in there. The tops get shrink wrapped. They ain't going nowhere. They're shrink wrapped. No bees are getting out of these. So it's pretty cool. All I got to do is pull on the sight, grab my forks, bring it out. Set of forks are really light, and it's got a button. What you're going to do to drive this lifter is go to Granger, and you get a 30-to-1 gearbox. 30-to-1 gearbox, and it is directly tied into a 12-volt motor that is forward reverse motor, and you put 2 solenoids like Ford's starter solenoids. You put 2, one solenoid for lift and one solenoid is for lower. So basically takes your 12-volt motor and turns it this way. You want to go down, it turns it this way. And it's chain driven. I run a number 40 chain, sprocket chain, steel chain number 40 from the discharge side of the 30-to-1 gearbox up to a small spool I make. The spool don't need to be but this big around. There's nothing to it. 2 small pillow blocks on there. Number 40 chain. 1/8 cable. Over, down. Very simple. And I run a little wire across the top of the boom. It's one of them curly, like the old phone type. You've seen the old phone type. Hello, phone type cords we used to have. They could stretch out 10 feet or more. Remember them? But I'm sure there's plenty out there yet. I can get them. And that cord runs from the top end of that boom down to my handles on my set of forks. So I can swing. I'll be able to load all this trailer up with my little mini forks and the ass end of my truck, because that will spin right around. It'll be 10 foot of boom. Spin right around and load my truck up. So I'm thinking a 3/4 ton truck, 4-wheel drive, and that's the way I'll run it. Flatbed on it. Yeah. That's for down the road. We'll see how this goes. We're going old school here. Real old school. Hand lifting boxes. That's the reason I'm going 8-frame. I can hand lift these boxes. You start dealing with 90-pound 10-framers. That'll wear you out, guys. It'll wear you out. So anyway, that's what Steve-O's doing today here in the barn. Getting ahead of everything. I'm getting ahead of the honey crop. This honey crop ain't gonna come in for quite a while. I am going in now to locations into cabbage palm. I've got 2 cabbage palm locations. Beast will be going in Monday morning. Monday or Tuesday morning in the site. They're just stalking out now. Before long, they're going to, in another week or 2, they will be exploding. And that's sable palm. So old Steve-O will be on the sable palm honey flow. Don't you know? All right, guys, I'm gonna keep punching holes. I'll catch you on the next one. Be strong, be happy, and all that good stuff. See you later. Bye-bye.